Jason, we pulled this together. We got time for a conversation today. Maybe just a quick intro to yourself and myself. I'll let you start, Jason.
Absolutely. Jason Cottrell, CEO of Orium, and our specialty is in the concept of composable systems and agents. So really I think that the two key dimensions that are needed for the next several years of transformation and modernization in commerce.
And I'm Mike Micucci, CEO of Fabric, and obviously we build composable platforms, particularly around the supply chain and order management. And this is a continuation of a conversation that Jason, you and I had at Shop Talk, where we spent some time. I think it was at your cabana in Vegas there, talking about kind of the future commerce, AI, particularly the impact of where we see this going, and even looked forward how we saw this unfolding this year at Holiday. And I thought it was such a compelling conversation. We thought, well, let's sit down and follow that up with a recording. And I'm just, as my background, for better or worse, been in the industry a long time and through multiple different kind of big tech shifts from the start of the internet, back at my days at Netscape, obviously cloud, mobile, and seeing each one of these shifts. And when we all say this, but we've never seen adoption curve faster. And every big tech innovation, the adoption curve is faster than the previous one, and this one is breaking all records. It clearly has profound impacts on how we see all things compute, particularly in enterprise SaaS. But I think in commerce in particular, commerce is one of the leading use cases for AI. And Jason, you are front and center with your customers globally. And I'm curious your thoughts, kind of this change and this evolution, which maybe really is an evolution, is going to be a full blown disruption over the next couple of years. What you're seeing at the macro perspective.
I mean, what blows me away is the pace at which this adoption is happening. And I think it's because it's consumers leading the charge. And businesses desperately trying to make sense of and then pivot to keep up. We talked at Shop Talk 3 months ago. What blows me away is it's not that a lot of things a year later, and you can say, oh hey, the needle moved a little bit. Like 3 months later, and so much has changed and actually become true of what we talked about, right? We were talking at Shop Talk about just how you would have this rollout of agents enabling shopping capability, marketplaces going out and buying on behalf of consumers. And we said, hey, that's probably going to come this year. 3 months later, and every major player has done it, has added that. And obviously the pace of consumer adoption of these products continues too. So, like was OpenAI, through 100 million ARR just in record time, right? Like faster, half the time of kind of the next best SaaS service, or developer-led adoption in business. Cursor hitting 100 million in a third of the time of that. So it's just that pace. And as I talk to customers, as I talk to partners, just that's it seemed like. I think what I really liked is like you got the pace at which this was going to move. And you weren't kind of coming up with a plan to have a plan. Obviously you've been locking in on that. You know it's coming quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting, Jason, since you and I met in Vegas at Shop Talk, I've been basically on a plane, which I'm sure you have been as well. And I've been visiting customers, frankly, all over the world. And I was comparing and contrast my meetings in April and May with maybe even 6 to 7 months ago, where we're running experiments with AI. I need the underlying systems more structured, blah, 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 blah. There was, I would say, skepticism, but it was like, that's kind of like next year's priority, to where suddenly it was the conversation changed completely. It was, I'm seeing more inbound AI searches on my website. I've heard as high as 10% now, where even around the beginning of the year, it was not even really measurable. And so we're seeing a structural shift where consumers, are not just really experimenting, but the adoption curve on consumers using AI is unbelievable. I think it took OpenAI maybe less than 3 years to get to 300 billion plus searches on a rate. Took Google about 10 years to get to that pace, and just give you the adoption collapse. But consumers now are turning to AI for research, right? I need a new pair of running shoes. I'm going on a vacation, and they're using that to front load their commerce experiences, reducing kind of the click through to the brand. And that's going to have just profound impacts across the board. And every platform we know will have shopping, at least AI will have shopping as one of its top use cases. So I'm, just thinking through this, and this is a conversation you and I had, but I'm sure you're seeing this as well. Now, have you seen any kind of behavioral shifts even in your clients about what are they thinking about as part of that change in that search behavior?
You said kind of reducing click-throughs to brands, and I would actually say for this year, I would put an asterisk on that. This year, part of what we'll maybe hear back is, are there really that many consumers that are buying using these agents? And we got to remember, it's only in the last 1 to 2 months that capability has really kind of come out with most of the major kind of LLMs. And in many cases, it's not fully rolled out. And what I try to point out is actually what has changed already, and you can see it in site traffic for a lot of brands, is traffic sources, overall traffic. But the thing is, right now, consumers, they're still in the end buying themselves. And I think for the next 12 months to 24 months, you'll see that likely stay true. As you said, it's the research, it's the decision making, it's choosing where I buy. So that means, though, if they're buying, they're still going to our website. So if your traffic is dropping, it means they're going somewhere else. Someone else has already outcompeted you for that customer. Because eventually, so maybe they're doing less overall site traffic as part of their research process, but eventually they're dropping out of the LLM to complete a purchase still themselves. So if you're seeing drop off there, that means you're actually feeding share, not just that the LLM's taken that early purchase journey. Over the next couple of years, that compounds because the LLM will increasingly recommend where to buy it from or complete the purchase. They'll do more of that. So if you're behind, it's about to compound.
We're at a pace today where OpenAI, Perplexity, Anthropic, Gemini are training billions and billions of people on a new behavior. How to use AI to discover things, do research. And they're front loading the commerce process there, right? Where you may have done that on a brand site, reviews, or whatever, however you did it before. And they're providing amazing tools, the Google I/O, and how they were showing shopping intent, how they were tailoring it to the audience. Very impressive. So they're front loading that. And that we're all probably experience that in our day-to-day life. I know I'm certainly using these tools and saving a ton of time and getting better results. Today it's mostly research. Tomorrow being maybe next year, I don't know exactly. It'll probably be then on the purchase side. What's your guidance as you just talked about that? If you're seeing a reduction into your site traffic, is it because you're not showing up well in AI, or is it more of maybe your data is not structured properly, or a combination maybe of both?
I mean, odds are it's a combination of both. I think, most firms have not structured their data thinking about how it's associated, how an LLM can make sense of it. There is sometimes the nature of just, there's many equivalent concepts now, kind of more agent or generative kind of optimization. And it's a play forward on search optimization. It's all new criteria, and it's very early days. It's very fuzzy and nebulous, and it's a little different depending on each provider. But in general, I think you're correct. They have not optimized their content, their data. They haven't made it available in a way that these tools can access it easily. And there's most definitely an element of being authoritative, right? So the size of the brand or where those products are being represented, all of that, from a lot of what we're seeing is what these LLMs love. And so just, if you're not rapidly considering how to optimize for that, then you're falling behind, even in the next few months. What we're finding is really interesting is as we look at the criteria that we think are making a difference, they're all the prep work you have to do for your own internal agents. So people are obsessing about, well, as I can purchase more through ChatGPT, how's that going to impact me? But the reality is you'll probably also start to enable equivalent of your own agents to do purchasing through to be able to sell and transact through your site search, or into wholesale channels, or through your contact center. So you're not going to have one agent that runs every part of your business and every channel or is involved in every channel. This is a composable problem. There will be different channels, different agent channels. So as you organize this and as you organize your data, as you make sure that everything's available and callable through API and with verification, and as you organize the knowledge, content, and product data, it benefits you in every channel. As you really should. Our guidance is you cannot be waiting there, because a lot of the lift on this can be 6 months, a year, 2 years, depending on where the company's starting from. And I don't think a lot of firms are going to have that time. That's where executives, teams get fired, companies go under. Like we're facing potentially that kind of disruption.
So Jason, as you and I talked about, I'm a huge cyclist. I do them all, mountain, gravel, road, and bikes are just a collection of lots and lots of parts, and it can be incredibly difficult to find these parts that fit your need. And just the availability of AI and helping cut through that noise and clarity of helping you make that decision, it's completely eye-opening, game changing. But I also noticed that it changed where I was purchasing from, because it wasn't just saying, hey, here's what you should use. At the same time, it was directing me to places I'd never purchased before. And that was a big eye-opener for me. And it was back to your point of, you might already be seeing a decrease, not because AI is taking away the attention, but they're directing you in different places. So you and I talked about, what should companies do? What should retailers do to prepare for this? And I think at Fabric, we have two pieces of that equation. One is a product catalog really optimized on how to publish information out correctly, semantically correct. And two, some supply chain. Because I think we talk a lot about the product information and getting good product information out there that can be semantically read by AI. There also, I think the second piece is you put the supply chain information next to it. That is, I have this product, this piece for my component for my bike, maybe brake pads, but is the inventory available? What's my delivery date? Is there a return policy? This is my brand promise, which is even more important. How when you think about this and you start guiding your customers prepare not just product information, but your overall footprint of how to provide a pre and post purchase experience in the world of AI, what's been the discussions you're having?
Yeah, so I think if we're guiding on what to look for, ultimately changes that brands are making today will live through the agentic era. If you're putting a new system in place, it has to be preparing you for that. And so obviously that data foundation that you're discussing, say from a catalog perspective, is critical. But it's also the ability, let's think, say, first consumer facing agents. We want to make sure that I think it's reasonable to state that they'll also have an understanding of kind of confidence and delivery. When can this thing be delivered? Where will it be delivered from? I think we've got a reasonable view that is something that will stand out and be in favor of a brand who has that capabilities over those that don't. If customers are shortlisting options, that as something that cues through and builds that confidence. I would fully expect that there will be some channels and some marketplaces which track that ability to meet the fulfillment in determining where they order from next. That does not seem far-fetched to me. if I look over on how agents will run your own business, so intersecting into your customer support and contact center agents, if you're supporting franchisees, what do they deal with? So in all of those elements, all the same automation, like the ability to understand where an order is at, what can be modified, can it be fulfilled differently, all of that being available via API performantly, right, where milliseconds count, and then being able to interpret that, and then to be able to take an action and confirm it was completed, and or to be able to check back on it later. All of those are things that are coming together rapidly for more enterprise, not just consumer, but also kind of the agents that will be increasingly involved in your business. And what we're guiding customers on is, those elements are also in themselves not enough. In general, you need to be pushing for vendors who have an agent strategy of their own, and it is one in which there's interoperability. So, for customers to be able to, they should be expecting their ISV partners to be turning on AI and agentic capability, both for operation, but also to take on more complex tasks and to work across systems, more agent to agent or agent to other systems. And so all of that matters, like to break out of doing just simple little automations, all of those capabilities are required. There's an interoperability there. That's where, again, it plays back to kind of our composable foundations, because it's not just going to be one agent that runs your business. This is not just a one channel problem. It's a fragmentation. So you need partners who can support that.
So you brought up a good point, and I'll break it into two pieces. We've talked earlier in the conversation about the trends of AI, how it's shaping consumer behavior. Consumers are using AI today for research. Now that they're being directed to different places, maybe they didn't purchase before, might even be impacting your business today, or at least starting to see a small trend that's going to accelerate over the year. But there's also AI agents to make you more productive. So I think about it as, how can we use AI and agentic to help you work with this new wave of shopping behavior? And two, how do we use AI to automate things, be more productive? As we know, most commerce systems are highly fragmented. There's lots of different components. It's hard to get visibility into one. I think this is where I look at two sides of that equation. At Fabric, particularly around, we rethought how OMS works. We think about it as an orchestration for your business, end-to-end, pre and post-purchase. So agents are really designed to run jobs to be done. How can those agents collect the data across this surface area and bring it so you can get your job done, whether it's merchandising, whether it's better availability of inventory, or how do you reduce your split shipments and optimize, right? The same time is, how do you provide the information semantically correct out to the endpoint so that the shopping agents and the AI have the information they need to make decisions? And that's, like, I think you hit it. Your partners, your tech partners or vendors, whatever the term is, should really be thinking about both sides of that equation, right? How do I help you get your job done through the lens, jobs to be done through internal? And how do I get your information in a format that semantically be understood by AI? If you took that and you said, okay, that's a lot. In your world, this has got to be changing. It's changing a lot in the tech landscape. But as an integrator, as an SI, how does that change your role in guiding your customers and helping them?
Yeah, I think part of it is, and I still look at it. It was a stat that I saw the other day. It's only 30% of total enterprise compute workloads are in the cloud. That number shocked me, and how low it is for all of the discussions that have been had on the topic over the last 15 years or so. Step one is there's a modernization and foundations component of this. If critical information is being batch updated every night, then now this is where it continues to compound that's probably going to become an issue for you. I think starting to again guide our customers, we view part of our role as an advisor, thinking essentially of AI in these systems infrastructure, right? So it's not one system that runs your whole business and it'll just be wrapped up in that and you're good to go. The reality for our customers, anyone who's not SMB, is making sure you're putting in place the systems here that you can change in and out individual components as you need to, and change them relatively quickly, especially given the advancements in pace of AI. If it's 1 to 2 years of lead time, that you're going to get left behind very quickly. So some of it's a structure, a pace, guiding through how to do that well. And then I think the other part of it increasingly for us is shifting our role to actually be more involved, not just in set it up and here you go, but to assist with operating these agent flows more end to end. So thinking at that agent and agent to system layer, coming with some of the blueprints, pre-written IP, the ability to help execute, operate, and monitor. I like to think of very, very similar to what people do with employees today, right? Is your understanding first more, how do I train? How do I set that up and train it? And so we have the ability as an expert to bring expertise there. How do we start it more in draft mode? Like a new employee, I got to check your work every time. I don't fully trust it, but you can start getting some reps in. Where can I give more autonomy? And then how do I make sure across the many agents in my business that they're running well, that I can assure that? So I think the role for an advisor and an integrator like us starts to play a much more active partnership there, and making sure that that's a layer that's operating for our customers. And some of the parts lower down will start to become increasingly commoditized. I think the other last part is as a thought partner. I mean, what I like to say, right? One of my favorite Ethan Mollett quotes, something that was core to your competitive advantage has just gone away in the last 6 months. And something that consumers want that was never possible, that was impossible, is now possible. And your job is to figure those two things out before your competitors do. And so we view ourselves as a thought partner, not just for the daily operations and working through the infrastructure and how processes will change, but ultimately thinking through the company ending and or company defining moment of that strategic shift. So we work with customers through our studio to play a key role there.
I love how you stated that. And I think the partnership piece is even more important. And it's partnership because in the world of AI, particularly let's pick on automation internally. AI is probabilistic and non-deterministic, meaning all the systems we developed prior to this is you put 3 things in boxes and you knew exactly what's supposed to come out the other side. That's the definition. Probabilistic, it's really about guiding. And so when you're implementing a probabilistic piece around jobs to be done, okay, a job to be done, I need to tune my product catalog for the endpoint. There's not always a clear answer, right? And this is where it's a combination of the agent working in combination with the employee or the person doing the job, and clear definitions of outcomes. And this is where I think, Jason, in your goal and what you guys are doing and being the experts and helping, like, this is best in class. Like, this is how we get to best in class, how we combine the power of this AI agent with what you're targeting to do. And that's really going to change, I think, the dynamic in the industry about how our companies all work together to drive success. This is an exciting time. I've never seen more change ever and faster. It's changing, every month. If we had this conversation again, probably in 2 months, we'll be like, wow, did you think about that? You have any predictions, Jason, coming out of holiday? Like, I know it's only June, but I'm thinking forward to the holiday season, and any predictions on how AI is going to shape that?
Yes, I think, this year really is the year where I suspect you will see firms actually stating in their holiday results that whether they were ahead or behind in inclusion in agents actually moved the needle, and they had to talk about that. And I think, again, if we look even now in June, early June, what's going on in terms of the shifts taking place, was a Forrester, anywhere from 15 to 30% drop in site traffic in some categories as consumers are researching and or making decisions elsewhere. And so that will increasingly flow through as agents either take purchasing or as it starts to redirect, new winners and losers emerge here. So I think we're going to see that in earnings results for the first time. We didn't last year. I think we will this year. I think we'll see that in how the holiday season plays out. And I think that means that when the budget cycle resets next year, those who don't have a firm plan, either to pull spend in and adapt before the holiday season this year, or have that firm plan going into next year, it's just going to compound. And I worry about the pace at which this is evolving for anyone who's not already moving.
So I agree with you. I think what we're going to see is a breakthrough in how consumers approach shopping. And the breakthrough is how they're using AI to research and discover. And that's going to fundamentally change, kind of an eye opener on buying patterns. And, as we know, shopping continually disperses to where the consumer wants to show up. And it's up to everybody else to figure out how they match to where the demand is. And that is going to be like probably the biggest shocker coming out of this is I think everybody's going to be like, whoa, wasn't anticipating that at that level. And you're right. It'll probably drive some behavioral changes around investments next year.
And it's not just going to be about, hey, I've opened some, obviously it matters to open up an API so that whether your agents or kind of more consumer oriented agents can act. But it's also, this is a chance for companies to rethink what does draw people to their channel, what does bring direct purchasing. So some of that is fulfillment and store delivery. Like some of that is kind of very like clarity, shipment or fulfillment options, payment options. But it starts to get into payment options, financing. It starts to get into what payment options you are. It starts to get into loyalty, right? And loyalty or membership. It can get into content and how you merchandise. Can you use AI? You gave a bike example earlier. Can you use AI to create on-demand guides for using the thing you bought? So it'll force kind of a rethink as well of what gets consumers to purchase directly. And I think that's exciting. I think there's a wave of innovation that's going to come out of that as brands look to adapt to that new reality.
Well, if the past set of cycles taught us anything, it takes a while for the model to emerge, the behavioral model, right? Whether it was social, whether it was mobile, particularly in the days of internet, it was a few years. This will happen faster, but I think that this holiday will heavily shape the model. It's going to heavily shape kind of all of our kind of thought patterns and investments over the next 18 months. Such an exciting time in commerce and the industry as a whole. This is just so much fun. Jason, thank you for your time. I look forward to, we should do a repeat of these in a few months and see how we're tracking on our ideas. You have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Mike. Cheers.